This is a Norwegian folk tale. There was once a squire. He had masses of land and a barn full of gold and money in the bank too. But the thing he didn't have was a wife. And one day he thought he would like a wife. Well, as it happens, he was walking in the fields and he saw a young girl working in the fields, collecting the hay. And he thought, oh, she'll do. She won't cost me any money because I won't have to pay her any wages now. And she'll be really pleased to be my wife with all that nice clothes and things. So he asked the girl to come to his house, to his manor. And she sat down and he said, well, young lady, I've a mind to get wed. Well, she said, mind on then. Well, I want to wed you. You'll do. You'll be my wife. No, sir. No, thank you for asking me. I don't want to be your wife. The more he tried to persuade her to be his wife, the more she was adamant that she would not do it. And so he went to see her father. Now, the father was one of his tenants. Well, my man, I want your daughter as my wife. The father said, yes, that sounds very good. I'm very pleased that that's what you want. I might let you have that meadow for a lower rent, he said. The farmer said, yes, I will arrange this. Well, that night when the girl came in from the fields, the father did everything to cajole her, to persuade her to be the wife of the squire. But she would not do it. No, she said, no, not ever. So next day when the squire came knocking at the door, the farmer said, I'm sorry, I can't persuade her to do this. The squire said, you have to. Sort it out, my man. We'll talk about it. And they sat down and they hatched a plan. And a few weeks later, the squire held a large party. The girl knew nothing of this. The party was full of drink and wine and his well-off friends. And he was dressed as a bridegroom. And indeed, he'd invited the parson along, who was ready to read a marriage service. Just before the party started, he called the stable boy. And he said to the stable boy, I have a job for you. Mind you do it quickly. Go down to the farmer in the field over there and tell him I want what he promised me. You be quick or there'll be trouble. And the stable boy went off down the lanes to the farmer's house, knocked at the door. I've come to collect what you promised the squire. The farmer said, yes, that's fine. She's out in the field over there. And the stable boy went out down to the field. The girl was working in the field there, sowing some seed this time. And he said, I've come to collect what the squire was promised by your father. And the girl thought, I know what's going on. Yes, she said. Who's over there? Well, over there was the great grey horse, the grey mare. So the stable boy went galloping over the fences and leapt on the back of the grey mare and galloped up to the squire's manor. Leapt off and went to the squire and said, I've got what you were promised. And the squire said, right. Take her upstairs then and get her dressed in the wedding dress. My servants, the kitchen, the cook is ready there to help you. Stable boy, what is going? squire said, "Jump to it, now!" The stable boy was quite worried about the farm for the squire, and he went galloping off and called in his friends as well, because getting the great mare up the stairs to the spare room at the top of the house was not an easy task. But they pulled her ears and they pushed her from behind, and gradually they got her up the stairs. And there was the cook and some of the servants ready to get her dressed with a bridal gown and a veil and the crown for her head. They'd assumed that the squire was playing a joke on his guests, and with great hilarity and great fun and laughter, they dressed the old grey mare. They dressed her in the gown across her rump and the veil and the crown slightly to the side so it would fit over her ear. And then the stable boy went down to see the squire and he said, "She's ready." And the squire said, "Right, bring her down," and then burst through the doors and call out, "The bride." The stable boy, still thinking it was a joke, went back upstairs, and again with great difficulty they dragged the mare down to outside the great room where all the guests were there drinking their wine, and the parson was there and everyone else. And the stable boy cried, "The bride!" And the doors burst open and the mare got just inside and then took fright at all these people around and took off and galloped out of the open door. We can imagine the squire. He was horrified and he dropped his drink all the way down his trousers. And the parson dropped his prayer book. And people stood back, and then they all started laughing because they thought it was a big joke. And the story is that the squire did never find a wife after that. But perhaps the stable boy fancied the girl, and perhaps we could imagine that there was a wedding after all.